Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
Raz Zabani for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me this Sunday afternoon, my man, Mr. Dave Colwell. Dave, happy Sunday. How are we doing?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Been a good week. Productive week in the gym. You know, decent week at home, getting things done. So yeah. Obviously, it's Sunday, so usually Sunday I'm out footballing and what have you. And we're just stuck in the house, so it is what it is. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Now, about to say, what, day 4 today? Lockdown. Still sane? Still okay? Mind still okay?
Yeah. Luckily, I'm training away, so I get to keep my mind active. Luckily, I'm working with the fighters, Jordan, Hopi, and Lerone, so that's keeping me active as well and keeping my mind going. Lots of things to come up and think about there, and so yeah, it's all good. It's just that I was saying to somebody last night on the phone, I feel like I'm treading water. And I don't like treading water. It frustrates me. So I get a little bit agitated and a little bit, But it is what it is. Got to do it and just get on with it. And hopefully December 2nd it's done, and December 3rd can start cracking on a little bit more.
Oh, let's hope so. Dave, just want to go back 10 odd days or so. Usyk Chisora. I don't really want to talk too much about kind of the scorecards and how people saw the fight. I know you spoke openly after the fight, and then I saw your tweet about watching it from home and your opinion changed. And I don't really want to focus on that because you came out and you kind of made everybody aware of what you thought. Just want to focus on Usyk himself as a heavyweight. I've seen a lot of criticism about him and his performance. Now, you've assessed him and you've watched him a lot of times. I know you would have watched him a lot for Tony Bellew, and then obviously Chisora is a good friend of yours as well. So is it unfair that he's getting a lot of criticism based on the fact that really this was his first really heavyweight fight?
Yeah, so the problem is with Usyk, because he's such an elite talent, you're always going to judge him on that. So it's easy to fall into that way of thinking. You kind of, it's like I spoke about this, where sometimes when you expect so much more from somebody and so not so much from somebody else, and they don't do as much and they do more and better, it kind of gives you a perception of like, oh, it's like when a fighter gets dropped straight away in first round and then gets dropped in second round. Then all of a sudden they start clawing this up. They might not actually be clawing it back, but just because they're performing better and they're taking shots better and they're getting more into the fight, still might be losing the rounds, but you kind of like hold their performance in high regard. I think Usyk, it's unfortunate because I generally think, after looking at him at 2 fights now, Chaz Witherspoon and Chisora, style-wise should have made Usyk be able to perform and look fantastic. Physicalities and strength and ruggedness of Chisora was always going to be that question mark. Can he cope with strength? Can he, how is he going to be with that? But I've got the big guys in the division, your AJs, your Furies. I think he's going to struggle. I just think that he seems to have slowed down that little bit at heavyweight with the extra weight. He just seems, I watched a couple of nights ago. I watched Usyk in some of his cruiserweight fights because I just wanted to see and there is a lot of difference with the distractions, the twitches, the feints. A lot of them have come away, and he's a little bit more. I'm not going to say predictable. It's not more predictable as such, but there's a lot less going off in front of you in the picture there. Or there was, against Chisora. There was really against Chaz Witherspoon. So, and I think all the movements and the triggers and the feints and the light feet in an aggressive sort of manner, that was a big part of his game at cruiserweight. And I think you take that away, and you take that fraction of speed away, and with the height and the size difference, the strength difference, the power difference that the elite heavyweights have got, I think that's a big struggle for him. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I'm a massive fan of him. But I'm just a little bit worried for him with the big guys. But again, he's only finding his feet in the division. He's only settling in. I remember when Holyfield stepped up and then obviously beat Douglas, but then he fought Bert Cooper, who was just a rugged, strong, tough man, and he wobbled all over the place. And we all said, "Oh, he's going to struggle against the big guys of the division," and And then you look at what he ended up doing, as a heavyweight. It was fantastic. But I just think with Usyk, his game is the speed, the reflexes, the feints, the brain. I think when you take bits of that away from him, then it's not, it's not such a complex opponent that the other guys have got in front of him.
When they interviewed him for Sky Sports after the fight, they said, do you want to become a world champion? And he said, undisputed champion. Is that realistic, do you think?
He's an elite fighter. It was the same at cruiserweight. He's undisputed. He was a man. So of course he wants to step up and do the same at heavyweight. And that's his mentality. That is his mentality. That's his team's mentality. And he has the talent to be that kind of fighter. But has he got, and it's through no fault of his own, is he just simply too small? And that is my worry for him, because Chisora's wide, strong, crude, but he's not very tall at heavyweight. He's not, he hasn't got the range at heavyweight, and he doesn't use that range. Doesn't throw a lot of straight punches as such. Did the other night. The guys like your AJs, your Furies, I just think they're too big for him. They're too big, and the level of ability that they've got as well with that height. Brendan used to say to us when we were young, you can give away height and reach to people that aren't on your level. You can give away height and reach to people that aren't that good. Weight as well. You can give away that just the size. But when you're talking about people that are on your level, and it's a real fight, a 50-50 fight, then a lot of times that height, reach, weight, strength, that plays into an effect. And that's where I think it might just be a case of, with Usyk, that just might be a case of, where he struggles a little bit. I don't know. But I'm a big fan of his, and I like him. I like a lot about. I love him as a cruiserweight. I think he's a phenomenal cruiserweight. But I just think the size might be a little bit too much for him at heavyweight.
We saw Anthony Joshua live there watching in, and he said that I'm here to watch my future opponent. Do you think he looked at him and thought problems, or he thought easy work?
I don't think he'll look at him and say, "Oh, easy work," but I don't think he'll have left there thinking up close, because you wouldn't. If you're, would you say that AJ's, when he puts his punches together, is he as crude as the attacks of Derek's? No. He's longer than Derek. He's taller than Derek. He's got a better jab. He's got good feet. His feet are a lot better than what they used to be. So there's a lot of things that AJ does better than Derek Chisora. And then you look at that fight that Usyk's had with Chisora. Usyk's come out of the ring, regardless of how wide you've got it or whatever. Usyk's come out of the ring knowing he's been in the fight with a heavyweight. He's not been able to do what he likes to do as much. I just think that somebody like AJ is and AJ is always the one that I thought that Usyk could possibly be. But looking at him now, 2 fights in, I'm not so sure now. I would strongly favour AJ, to be honest. And I think Tyson Fury, because Fury's got that brain, that skill, skill set, the awkwardness as well. He can box southpaw, he can box orthodox, he can box in a negative manner if he needs to be, and now he's showing he can box in a more physical manner, an aggressive manner, but yet still using that range, that length, and that reach. I think Fury's, very, very difficult for somebody that's not got the size, but also not got this. If he's not got the speed, I mean, don't get me wrong. As he develops more into the division, he might start getting, he might bring more of the cruiserweight Usyk back to his game. But from what I've seen in the 2 fights at heavyweight so far, a lot of what made Usyk so great isn't quite there, and that's where so I can only judge on what I've seen as he is now. If he brings that back, if he can bring that back with this extra weight, then it could be a different ball game again. But yeah, I would say that those two are out of reach. Well, possibly out of reach for him.
Dave, in a couple of weeks' time, we were hoping to see the rematch. Povetkin and Dillian Whyte announced earlier this week that Povetkin has tested positive for COVID-19 in the fight as well. Firstly, we wish Povetkin all the best and health, and hope he comes back stronger. Would you say it's a blessing in disguise for Dillian? There were a lot of questions and a lot of people were talking. I was reading a lot, and I did ask the questions that was he going to the fight too soon after that heavy knockout? Yes, he didn't take punishment. But that was a big punch that landed. Could it just work out in his favour?
It's not going to do him any harm. I think it was a case of where maybe he was given, I mean, I don't know, but maybe he was given an option. Look, you can either, we've got this date, November 21st, or you're going to have to wait until whenever in the new year. And he's probably thought, I can't wait that long. And you know what the fighters are like, when they've had a loss, they want to erase that. They want the last fight to be a win. Get that bad loss out of the way. Just get it out of your memory banks, and you get that feel-good feeling again. So I think he just wanted to get straight back in there and put the record straight as such. The fact that he's now going to have time to where he can just bring himself back down, have a couple of weeks chill time, and then go again, I think it's better for him. But then obviously he's going to be disappointed because he's fetched, he's been out in Portugal, he's fetched a team out there, he's been sparring, he's been putting all the work, there's nothing worse. You're doing all that, and then you get close to the fight, and then the fight gets cancelled. So there is that side to it as well. But long term, I look at it and I think, yeah, it's a blessing in disguise. That's why I'm glad that they didn't find another opponent for him and just replace it. I think, if you're gonna go, you've decided to go so quick because it was Povetkin and it was the chance of getting the revenge and getting your career back to where it was. So yeah, I understand you want to go straight away. But if you're going to be fighting somebody else, what was the point? You might as well just wait and done it later anyway. So I'm glad that they've not jumped in with somebody else, because it can't afford any more slip-ups now. It's too important. There's too much at stake. It's too high risk. And yes, as fans, we can turn around and say, oh yeah, but we'd love to have seen this fight. Oh, why didn't you fight him up? But come on, man. Let's look at these fighters have got one career. They've got to get it right. And that would have been rolling a dice. Rolling a dice for Povetkin straight away like that is a risk. But the reward's there. But to take on somebody else when you don't need to, that's just half done, really.
Like a Chisora, we saw David Haye come out and say, listen, no scars, no bruises, we're ready to go.
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, Derek loves to fight, and he'll fight absolutely anybody. But I wasn't comfortable with that myself, because he's gone through an hard camp, 7 months or something like that. He'd been training like literally all the time. He's gone through a hard camp, and I know how much he's working, how hard he's working in his sessions and things. And then he's been through a 12-round. All right, Usyk weren't hurting him as such. He got hurt at the end of the round 7, I think it was. Got hurt badly, but it wasn't like, I know it's not like he's here and he gets a monstrous punches at every shot he's feeling. I get that, no marks and things like that, and it felt fresh, but it's still damage that's accumulating over 12 rounds. It's still damage on the body throughout the like that. So you need a bit of a rest. To go straight back in 2 weeks, it's not about, oh, I'm fit because I've just done 12 rounds, so I'm fit to go again. It's about your body and what it's doing to your body, you know. So I wasn't comfortable with that, and I'm glad that did get made. Like, he deserves a rest. Let him have a rest, and then he can do what he wants after that.
I know you may have spoken about this with Coogan last week. Obviously, the Deontay Wilder video that came out, him accusing Tyson Fury about cheating. He talked about Mark Breland, but we know it's happened in the past. We know that certain fighters have managed to put things in their gloves, right? It's happened 20 years ago, 15 years ago. We've seen it. Margarito, I think, Cotto. Now, with now...
Margarito tried it and got caught.
Now, we know with Nevada are very, very strict. You always got officials from Nevada. You got representatives from the WBC. We've seen videos of Jay Diaz in the room as well, Fury's getting gloved up. Someone is always with you. You can't even go to the toilet without them following you. I've been in the training room myself with certain fighters. Yeah. So is that just accusation? Is that just another excuse after excuse?
The problem is when he's had time. So, but he then came out and said about the suit. So the suit was the excuse. He got ridiculed for that. Now he's come out with all these different, and it's loads of different accusations. It's like spiking the water. It's my trainer. It's the gloves. It's, you know, it's everything. And it gets to a point where it's like, somebody around him just put their arm around him and just say, mate, let's just focus on getting back, improving as a fighter, coming back and fighting. You know, coming out with all these accusations it looks bad. And do you know what? Rather than digging him out and going in hard on him, I look at that video and I'm quite worried about him. You know, some fighters, we've seen it in the past with fighters where when, you know, suffer a loss and it does something mentally to them. They're not the same sort of person, and it troubles them deeply. And Deontay Wilder, I look at that and I worry for him. You know, and I think who's around him to help him through this? Because one thing that a fighter needs is when they get beat, is they need people around them. You know, they need somebody around them, or, you know, or a group of people around them that aren't just the yes men, that aren't just going to pat him on the back and you'll be back champ and all that shit. You know, they need to get him through the mental minefield that a fighter suffers when he gets beat. Because when he gets beat, regardless of whether it's controversial, regardless of if they make excuses or whatever, just when a fighter gets beat, the amount of ridicule that he gets off of fans, off of social media, off of trolls, off of, you know, general public, off of other fighters, you know, especially the higher the profile is, and the more they open their mouth. And, you know, Wilder's come out with stuff in the past, and that's part of his character, and that's why he's known, you know, because we have a lot of good fighters that aren't known because they don't say anything. But when you're outspoken, you put yourself on that pedestal in order to get shot down. But the problem is as you're getting shot down, some fighters, it destroys them mentally, and they have to cope with that as it is. But then they have to cope with the fact that if you genuinely believe that you could knock out any fighter in the world, and if you genuinely believe that you were never going to get beat and things like that, you have to process that and deal with that on itself. So you need people around you to help you come through that and help you, you know, help talk you through that. Because boxing is boxing, and fighters will win and fighters will lose. And it's very rare that you get a fighter that can go his whole career without being beat, you know. So I worry about Wilder because it didn't look right. It looked uncomfortable. So I'm not going to say, is this, is that, and all that, blah, he's deluded, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe so, but maybe there could be a reason behind that, and maybe he is struggling mentally, and it didn't look great. So yeah, I hope that he gets his head together and gets right, because he's a really nice guy. You know, I spent 3 weeks with him when he was over here sparring with David A. Whenever I've been to America, I bumped into him and things. We've kept into. He's a nice guy, and I just hope for his sake that he comes through it all right. But also maybe I hope for his case that this video and all this talk is just about stoking up fires and being controversial, like some fighters like to be. Because if that's for real, and if he believes that, and if he thinks that, then he's got problems.
We know in the past, Dave, he's talked about, I want to have a body on my record, and he has come and clarified those comments. And he said that what I really mean is this: I'm in fight mode. My mind is now about going into this war against this particular opponent and winning. And that is the language that I use. He doesn't actually mean that. In an interview, he did.
Yeah, but he shouldn't say it.
Of course,
he shouldn't say it. Regardless, he shouldn't say it. There's no excuse for that. He shouldn't say it.
He's done a couple of interviews, and he said, and I quote exactly what he said. He said, "I want them bad, and when I get them, because I'm going to get them, better make the funeral arrangements. I'm coming to spit on their tomb, spit on every last one of them." And that's an interview, and again, referring to, as you can imagine, what he's referring to there. But when you talk about his state of mind, okay, fine. But he went one further this time, about Mark Breland, and he said, my water was spiked, and he feels Mark Breland has something to do with that. So when he talks about Mark Breland as well, on top of the gloves and I want to spit on the grave, does that worry you? Is that what's worrying you? Now he's gone one step further. He's gone into his own family almost with Mark Breland, who's been with him most of his professional career.
But that's the whole thing. This is why it seems he's lost. And I'm not talking about the fight. I'm talking about he's lost. He's lost himself. He's lost what perception of reality he had. Because it's just crazy. That's just silly talk. And it's uncomfortable as well. And as Mark Breland spent all these years with him and done what he's done, for him to hear him speak like that, that's bad, man. Listen, fighters leave trainers, trainers and fighters split, whatever, and move on. But to come out with that sort of shit, that's just next level. And that, again, that's what I'm saying is you look at the list of things that he's saying, it's not. I get, some fighters flick a switch when they get in that ring, and some are animals, and they, when I mean animal, I mean they have that animal instinct of where they want to go in, and they're not going in there to box. They're going in there to hurt people, knock people out, and do as much damage as they can. That's their fight mentality. You get a street kid that does that on the street, turn him into a boxer. He's still got that mentality. That's the juice that they might run on. But then there's things that you can't really say. But then when you're talking about somebody who's spent countless hours and time with you to help make you what you are, and you come out with that crap, that's not only was it so far-fetched and stupid, but it's so disrespectful. And for Mark Breland, and he can shrug it off and maybe laugh and joke about it publicly, but inside he must be thinking, fucking hell, that's hurtful.
Dave, big news broke this week. As you know, in America there was ongoing battles, lawsuits between Canelo, Golden Boy, DAZN. Looks like they've all come to an agreement, and the agreement was Canelo has been released from his contract. Is this a major hammer blow for DAZN? We know DAZN launched in the UK for Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell, 199. But is this a global, and specifically more for the Americans, a hammer blow that they've lost them, one of the biggest superstars in the game?
Well, if anybody that's got ties to probably the biggest name in the sport, one of, that's a massive coup for him. That's a massive carrot to fans to come onto their network, to subscribe to their network. So when you lose something like that, then it is a case of like, oh shit, we've lost a big asset. Every company needs assets, and Canelo's a massive asset to whoever's got him. But if that's well, also listen, we got to be realistic, because the amount of money that they were paying for Canelo and Canelo's fights, were they getting that back in revenue? I don't know. I don't know what the figures are. I don't know how much, what they're getting back. So maybe, I'm not saying it is, but maybe, let's say they just think, oh, hang on a minute, this was costing us XXX, but actually we were falling a little bit short, or we were just breaking even, or, if they're not making a big profit, or if they're not making any profit, then maybe they might just think, well, okay, profile-wise, it's a hammer blow, but it's stopping us from bleeding money. Maybe there's that silver lining to their cloud. But as far as marketability is concerned, as far as assets are concerned, that's a massive blow. If Canelo's not in your setup on your TV network or on, then it's big. But I suppose maybe, I don't know going forward, I don't know, but Canelo might be a free agent and he might remain free. I mean, it might be a case of, right, okay, I'm fighting Caleb Plant December. Which TV network is going to pay the most money? And I'm sure if it's I'm not saying for Caleb Plant, but I'm just saying, just say he has a massive fight against somebody else, I'm sure that doesn't stop DAZN then from going, okay, well, we'll bid for that. And if DAZN had the most money out of it, offered him the most money, well, would Canelo then say, oh, no, I'm not doing a one fight deal with you? Well, maybe they would. So it perhaps doesn't, rule him out of any future Canelo fights. It just means that he's not tied to DAZN, and he's not a contracted DAZN fighter.
Is it a good thing for fans as well, because we know he wants to fight the best. We know Canelo's been with some amazing fighters already, but the likes of Billy Joe, Callum Smith, who've been waiting around a long time. You've got Charlo as well with one of the belts at middleweight. So does this free up, and is this a good chance now for Canelo to go in and mix it in at that high level?
Quite possibly. Depending on what his ambitions are and what he wants to do, then yeah, like you said, the Charlo fight would be great out there. That's a fight that I'm hearing a lot of people talk about now over there. From our perspective, Billy Joe, Callum Smith, we'd like to see them sort of fights happen. I think it makes things a little bit easier for, when you're somebody of that sort of stature in Canelo, if his mindset is to go out there and start taking the biggest fights, the best fights, maybe being a free agent will make things easier, because he could fight an Al Haymon fighter, then he can go and fight, top ranked fighter or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because he's not tied to networks or then it could work out in his favour.
Just finding Dave, somebody.
The problem is a lot of times. Sorry?
No, carry on. Go ahead. A lot.
No, I was just going to say a lot of the problem is politics, and I mean, we use that word a lot in boxing, but it's not so much politics as such, but it's just fear of networks, promoters, the fear of having a fighter lose. They want to build. It seems as though that you can't build a fighter up to be a star as such if they get beat, because then they think, oh, but yeah, with UFC, I look at, apart from the rare occasion, I look at their stars, and I'm right in saying most of them have got losses on the records. Do you know what I mean? It's just that they constantly keep seeking out the toughest tests, the biggest fights. They market it right. The videos that they make, the promo videos are right. There's a lot of promotional companies out there and a lot of TV networks out there that don't do the whole packaging around a fight to sell it, that don't go out and make these fights, because they don't make the fights because they're scared just in case their fighter gets beat. But then if your fighter gets beat, do your job and promote to build it up, to build him back up. A lot of times, it's the reason why a lot of prospects don't want to take big tests, because they're worried that the promoter's just going to disregard and then look for the next fighter, and they're fucked there. Do you know what I mean? But that's how they are. But that's the difference between I think, I'm not an expert on UFC, but from an outside just looking at it, that seems to be the difference between UFC and boxing, is that the promoter in UFC, he's willing to, all right, you want to come back? Yeah, you're coming back in this decent fight. We'll promote the hell out of it. Get people talking about these fights. Put you in. You win, you lose. See what happens. And that seems their attitude. Whereas ours is, we have a fighter lose, and it's like, see you later. let's move on to the next one, and you've just got to fucking do what you can to get back in the shop window, you know. So therefore, you have a lot of management, you have a lot of fighters that are a little bit wary about taking these risks. I just think that the you know, they can do a bit more of a job on changing that attitude, but that attitude's got to come from the promotional side of things. You know, like I said, is getting fighters out there. You know, it can be done, because you look at no disrespect to him, but you look at Dave Allen, who keeps coming, gets beat, comes back, gets beat, and he's doing that, then gets a good win, then comes back, and his record's got some losses on. Chisora's got some losses on, but we still want to watch him because the promoters get behind him and build a profile up, and they're good characters where the fans want to invest in them. But if the fans don't see the characters of the fighters, which is down to the promoter, a lot of it, and the fighters these days, because social media now, you don't need a promoter to keep having to do this, do that, do this. You can do it yourself. You can speak. You can let people see your personality. And whether they like it or not, they're aware of you. And when you come out on TV, they know a little bit about you. They can make a decision when they want you to win or want you to lose. But I think we've got to look at it and forget about the O as such. And you know, if a fighter takes a risk, especially these days, the one, you know, Eddie and everyone are all talking, we need fighters to have real fights now. We can't waste slots on prospect versus journeyman as such. It needs to be somebody that's going to be a bit of a step up. But then, because they're taking these risks, they've kind of got to understand that maybe if they have a loss or if they don't look as great, it's maybe because it is a little bit earlier than what we would normally take those fights. So don't just disregard him and say, oh, he's shit, he's not as good as what I thought. You gotta work with him as well. Do you know what I mean?
You mentioned the UFC and Dana White. Well, there's strong rumors that Dana White makes his boxing debut in December, promoting a potential undisputed fight for Clarissa Shields for Zuffa Boxing. So let's see how that.
All right, okay. I heard he was looking at coming into boxing, but I didn't know it was as early as December, and I didn't hear that about Clarissa Shields. So, yeah, interesting. I think it's only a good thing, you know. If Dana White comes in with the same sort of commitment, attitude, and model as what he's done with UFC, how can you not say that? So that, you know, that's a good thing for boxing. It could be a fantastic addition to our sport. Anybody that comes in with creativity and ambition and you know and a determination to succeed in boxing is an asset, you know.
Hey, just finally, next week, just want to get your opinion quickly on someone you know very well, Kell Brook, Terence Crawford next week. A picture of Kell the other day on Instagram and looked absolutely ripped and shredded, as always, before a fight. I spoke to Matt Macklin just before yourself, and he said pictures can be deceiving. And he said it's all good, looking good in the picture, but can you fight 12 rounds at 147? And you know Kell better than anybody. You've known him since he was 10, 11 years old. And I'm going to say in the most nicest way as possible, but is this a potential farewell fight for him?
It is a potential farewell fight for him, yeah, 100%. And Matt's bang on in saying that, you know, physically you can look fantastic. You know, it doesn't matter. You can see 60-year-old bodybuilders looking absolutely amazing. You know, to get yourself looking in great shape takes some dedication, takes good diet and good training, and then you can look like that. But looking like that and, like Matt says, performing are two totally different things. My issue for Kell is the 147. That was always a big issue for me. 147. One thing that he has got going in his favour to help him with that is it's not IBF, so there's no 10-pound rule for the next morning. So he can weigh whatever he wants to weigh. So I expect him, when he gets in that ring, he's going to be a much bigger man than Terence Crawford, much bigger. Now, if he's done the weight right and if he's been on it, then that's great. But I've got to say, in Terence Crawford, he's fighting a fucking brilliant fighter. You know, such an intellectual fighter that susses you out everything about you while you're in there. You know, he's a throwback. He might lose around the soul while he's dissecting you, while he's, you know, downloading his information and he's working you out, but he adjusts and he adapts like the old throwback fighters. In mid-fight, he adjusts and adapts to each problem that you give him. Obviously, Kell can punch a little bit, and he's got speed. But at this stage of his career, can he, you know, apart from Sean Porter all those years back, what's the best win? What's the best win he's coming off of, apart from Porter? I struggle to think, you know, in comparison of what we can say, you know, we're like a Crawford, you know, but Crawford as well, you've got to look at is he's naturally a smaller man, you know, and again, sometimes size can play a part. I think it's a very, very tough ask for Kell. I think it's very, and also with the whole, it's the biggest fight of his career, no doubt, because he's fighting arguably the pound number one. You know, it's the biggest fight of his career, and he's not working with Dom. It's kind of like, has he been? We don't know anything. Has he been getting elite level sparring, or has he been sparring with good kids? There's a big difference between sparring with good kids and preparing you for somebody like a Crawford. You know, I don't know what he's been doing. When it's hard, when you don't see what they're doing in training, it's very, very hard. You know, because we don't know. We're looking at it blind and kind of like going on past performances and, you know, inactivities and things like that. Listen, I wish him all the best, and I hope he pulls it off. But I think it's a very, very tough ask. Like I said, the one thing that helps him is that there's no 10-pound ruling, but he's still got to get to 147 and perform. And then, you know, do it right, that where when he loads back up, he doesn't make himself lethargic. You know, I don't know, but there's going to be a big size difference. I think there will be a big size difference. He has got that in his favour, but the quality of Crawford, I think you would make a big favourite in this fight.
Dave, okay, thank you very much for giving me a few moments of your time this Sunday. I know you're excited about this afternoon about watching Liverpool Manchester City, as you always are when you play.
I just want from both teams. I want loads of 2-footer challenges. You always come out and, you know, have a little bits of niggles and stuff like that. So you start dropping points, both of you, and it gives, you know, mediocre teams like us to manage to get up there. We need all the help we can get.
I'm about to worry about your state of mind, Dave. If you're relying on us to get injured just so that
no, do you know what? Do you know the funny thing is, right? Is somebody tweeted me yesterday saying, "Oh, you know, you're only 7 points off the bottom. Yeah, you've got a relegation fight this season." Well, I thought, well, hang on a minute. We're 7 points off the bottom, but we're only 6 points off top. So we're closer to being championship contenders than we are to being relegated. Do you know what I mean? So still in it.
Keep dreaming. Dave Caldwell for IFO TV. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt.